The Steffi Graf Stadion in Berlin had just witnessed an earthquake. A 21-year-old wildcard from the Philippines had done what nobody thought possible. She had beaten Elena Rybakina, the world number 2, the Wimbledon champion. The tennis world was still reeling. The shockwaves were still being felt. And then, she walked onto the court again. Just 24 hours later. Her legs were heavy. Her mind was racing. And standing across the net was Elina Svitolina. The world number 8. The former world number 3. The woman who had won 20 titles, including the prestigious WTA finals. The woman who had been a Grand Slam semifinalist. The woman who had won an Olympic bronze medal. The woman Eala had grown up watching on television. The oddsmakers said she would lose. The experts said the fairy tale was over. The fatigue would catch up with her. The pressure would break her. But Alexandra Eala had other plans. What happened next was not just a tennis match. It was history. Pure, unfiltered, undeniable history. The stage was set for a classic. Elina Svitolina, the 31-year-old Ukrainian veteran, had looked imperious in her previous matches. She had dispatched German hope Eva Lies with a clinical 6-3, 6-2 victory. She had cruised past Anna Kalinskaya with the ease of a player who had seen it all. This was a woman who had been to the pinnacle of the sport. A former world number 3. A WTA finals champion. An Olympic bronze medalist. She was not just an opponent. She was a legend. And she was not going to roll over for a 21-year-old wildcard from the Philippines. But Alexandra Eala had already proven that she did not care about reputations. She did not care about rankings. She did not care about the odds. Just 24 hours earlier, she had staged a remarkable comeback against Elena Rybakina. Down 4-1 in the first set, she had refused to quit. She had fought back. She had won. The victory had secured her first ever Wimbledon seed. It had moved her to world number 31 in the live rankings. It had announced to the world that she was not just a flash in the pan. She was the real deal. The nerves were there. Of course they were. This was her first time playing Svitolina. This was a player she had idolized since childhood. Elina is a huge fighter, and I've seen it many times. I've been watching her since I was a kid, so to be able to compete with her today is such an honor. I really admire her, Eala would later say. But admiration does not mean intimidation. Respect does not mean fear. Eala had learned that lesson the hard way, through years of training, through countless matches, through the crucible of professional tennis. And she was ready. From the very first point, Eala made her intentions clear. She was not here to survive. She was here to dominate. She came out firing on all cylinders, racing to a 3-0 lead behind an early break in the second game and 2 comfortable holds of serve. The Filipina was aggressive. She was fearless. She was playing like she had nothing to lose. Svitolina, the decorated Ukrainian, tried to find her footing. She got on the scoreboard at 3-1 after saving a break point, but Eala maintained control with powerful baseline hitting and confident grass-court tennis to move ahead 4-1. The crowd, packed with Filipino fans waving the blue, red, yellow, and white of the Philippine flag, was in full voice. They could feel it. They could sense that something special was happening, but Svitolina was not going to go quietly. She had won 20 titles for a reason. She had beaten the best players in the world for a reason. She had survived the grind of the WTA Tour for over a decade for a reason. The former world number 3 broke in the 7th game to cut the deficit to 4-3, threatening a comeback. The momentum was shifting. The tension was palpable. The Ukrainian was roaring back. Eala, however, remained unfazed. Unfazed by the setback, the Filipina struck back with another break in the 8th game before confidently serving out the opener in the 9th, capping a strong start with a 6-3 first-set victory. The set had lasted just 32 minutes. It was a statement. A declaration. A message to Svitolina, to the tennis world, to everyone who had doubted her. I belong here. Despite Svitolina finishing the opener with 10 winners compared to Eala's 8, the former was hampered by 4 double faults and 8 unforced errors. Eala, by contrast, committed just 1 double fault and 4 unforced errors in a composed first-set performance. She was not just playing well. She was playing smart. She was playing like a veteran. She was playing like a champion. The second set was a test of everything Eala had learned. A test of her resilience. A test of her courage. A test of her ability to close out a match against a player who refused to go away. Eala came out strong, grinding out a marathon opening game that lasted 18 points before securing an early break. She then consolidated with a hold of serve to move ahead 2-0. But Svitolina mounted a response befitting a player of her pedigree. The Ukrainian held serve before breaking in the 4th game to level the set at 2-2 and briefly wrestle back the momentum. The crowd held its breath. The Filipino fans, who had been screaming just minutes earlier, fell silent. The dream was starting to slip away. Eala, however, had other plans. She quickly turned the tide once more. Eala produced breaks in the 5th and 7th games, sandwiched around a pair of holds, to surge ahead 5-2 and move within a game of the semifinals. She was 1 game away. 1 game away from history. 1 game away from the biggest achievement of her young career. To her credit, the 31-year-old Svitolina refused to go away quietly. She broke in the 8th game and backed it up with a hold to trim the deficit to 5-4. The tension was unbearable. The crowd was on its feet. Every point was a battle. Every swing of the racket was a war. Svitolina then won the first 2 points of the 10th game with Eala on serve, but the Ukrainian shot herself in the foot with 3 straight errors before the Filipina, world number 35, sealed her victory in 1 hour and 23 minutes with a backhand winner. She had done it. She had beaten the world number 8. She had beaten the woman she had grown up watching. She had reached the semifinals of a WTA 500 event. The moment the final point was won, Eala dropped her racket. She raised her arms. She looked to the sky. The Steffi Graf Stadion erupted. The Filipino fans, the ones who had traveled from all over Germany, the ones who had waved flags and chanted her name for 2 hours, were in absolute chaos. They had witnessed something extraordinary. Something historic. Something that would be talked about for generations. I can't believe it. I'm in shock right now, Eala said after the match. The words were simple, but they carried the weight of a young woman who was still processing the magnitude of what she had just done. She was in shock. She was shaking. She was overwhelmed. And she was not afraid to admit it. The victory was Eala's 6th career top 10 victory, and the first time she had clinched consecutive victories against this caliber of players since the 2025 Miami Open, where she had beaten Madison Keys and Iga Swiatek in succession. It was a validation of everything she had achieved. A confirmation that her rise was not a fluke. A statement that she belonged among the best. Eala had also done something that few players her age could do. She had beaten a player she had idolized since childhood. She had faced her hero and not been intimidated. She had competed with grace, humility, and courage. Elina is a huge fighter. I've been watching her since I was a kid. It's an honor to play against her, she said. The words were not just polite. They were genuine. They came from the heart. The victory also moved Eala into the semifinals for the 3rd time this year. She would face Czech Linda Noskova, who had prevailed over Paula Badosa, 6-1, 6-3. It would be a rematch of their Indian Wells duel, which Noskova had won, 6-2, 6-0. Eala was seeking redemption. My last match with her proved to be very difficult for me, so coming into the semifinals, I'm going to try to change a couple of things, and just go out there and compete my hardest, she said. The victory over Svitolina was more than just a tennis match. It was a milestone. A moment that would be remembered for years to come. Eala had beaten the world number 2 and the world number 8 in back-to-back matches. She had secured her Wimbledon seeding. She had moved to world number 30 in the live rankings. She had proven that she could compete with the best players in the world on any surface, any day, any time, but Eala's legacy is not just about the victories. It is about the person behind the victories. It is about the young woman who called her dad after beating Rybakina, screaming with joy. It is about the young woman who spoke with such genuine admiration about her childhood hero. It is about the young woman who has inspired an entire nation, a nation of over 115 million people, to believe that anything is possible. Eala's impact extends far beyond the court. She has become a symbol of hope for millions of Filipinos around the world. She has shown them that champions can come from anywhere. That dreams are worth chasing. That the impossible is possible. She has been compared to Manny Pacquiao, the greatest Filipino athlete of all time. She has been called a people's champion. And she has earned every ounce of that praise. The tennis world is watching. The Filipino fans are praying. And Alexandra Eala is just getting started. She has already achieved what no Filipino tennis player has ever done. She has climbed higher than anyone before her. She has inspired a generation. She has shown the world that champions can come from anywhere. And she has done it all with grace, humility, and a heart that belongs to the people who believe in her. The semifinals await. Linda Noskova stands in her way. The road to the final is treacherous. But Eala has already proven that she thrives under pressure. She is not intimidated by the big stage. She embraces it. She welcomes it. She belongs on it. And the world is watching.